All right, welcome back to DYP Podcast, episode 51, right here in your ear holes. This is the weekly hangover. I know I tell you guys we're going to record these things live on Saturdays at noon. Well, Saturday came and went, and a professional would take blame for it. He would say, this is my fault, I didn't plan enough, but I'm not professional, no one else on the podcast. Chad got his oil change at the worst possible time, and Jason just plumb forgot.
Yeah.
So, but we got him back, though. That's good news. Jason's back on the pod. It's been a while. Jason, what's going on, man?
Not a whole lot. I don't have the cool book background anymore because I'm in a new
You don't look
place.
smarter. That's smarter.
Yeah. So I need to find a new place with rich mahogany and leather-bound books. But right now I'm just sitting in a basement in a new place. So I moved during my absence, which I think Andrew moved as well. I think we moved the same week, if you want to believe in coincidences and things lining up. Yeah. But other than that, man, I am doing pretty good. I'm just chilling out and enjoying a nice summer break from school.
That's the only upside of school is the fact that it stops for 3 months.
This is very true.
All right, so we'll get right into it. Not a whole lot going on. Oh, let me start with my first weekly plug, the WWE Network. If you ever like professional wrestling, I implore you, spend the money. It's $10 a month. It's a great deal. It's got all the old matches you used to love. And we're going to start with wrestling, actually. It's a ham-fisted segue, but a segue nonetheless. Andrew posted this on the blog this week. It's my favorite story of the week. Bill Goldberg picking UGA because of a bottle of wild turkey. If you got the too long didn't read, pretty much Bill Goldberg from Oklahoma had a family friend who was close with Bear Bryant, who passed along the advice to speak very highly of a guy named Vince Dooley. He came out for his recruiting shot. He said what solidified his trip was a bottle of wild turkey that was handed to me as I was standing on top of a bar during my recruiting trip. I'm not going to start telling recruiting stories just because I'm pretty sure I'm still could get in trouble for them. What's your take on this story? I think it's the best pro-Georgia recruiting story to come out, if not since the Portraits, then ever.
It certainly does us a lot more favors than the Portraits did. I mean, let's be real. The Portraits were great, but the Portraits could also come off as a little bit creepy, a little strange. And so this sounds much more like how an SEC recruiting story should sound, of a guy go get the recruit drunk and then give him another bottle of bourbon because we make it rain in Georgia with.
It rains bourbon in Georgia.
But the one thing that's funny about this story is that when I read that line of Goldberg standing on a bar holding a bottle of wild turkey, I can't picture him in anything other than a leotard. You know what I mean? Like anything other than like the Speedo and like with the tattoos and
that's a great point. Because now I think once you've lived that, you can't unlive that. I think the black trunks and like the security guards and the long walk from the back to the front and showering in sports, I'm pretty much convinced that's how he carries his everyday life.
Oh yeah, when I see him at Georgia games, because he'll randomly show up at a Georgia game. When I see him on the sideline of a Georgia game, I'm always so stunned to see that he wears shirts. Like I didn't know the guy wore shirts at all.
Again, we're just delving a little bit of pro wrestling nerdhood. If you want to hear the rest of the story and some more stories Bill Goldberg tells, you can go to Jim Ross's podcast. He doesn't need our plug, but it's a great podcast if you ever like pro wrestling. Let's find something else to talk about. Hangover.
Here's what. Wait, before we leave professional wrestling, here's what
you got me.
We should at least say what the one match you would be the most excited to rewatch on the WWE Network.
See, that's not fair because I have watched those matches.
Okay, well, tell me the one that, as soon as you got it, you were like, I have to watch this match right now.
That's not. See, why would you? Okay, I'm not going to go with the first one I watched. I'll go with the most recent one that I was excited for.
Okay.
So I guess 2 weeks ago, and I apologize for anyone who doesn't care about pro wrestling, but I promise to go back to other sports in a second.
Yes.
So the best thing about the network is they own all the WWE is pretty much turned a monopoly, so they own all the old tapes of all the old federations. So 2 weeks ago, I got an email saying Clash of Champions is now on WWE Network. And if you've ever been like a down south wrestling fan, WCW's Clash of Champions was originally their plan to combat WrestleMania.
Yeah.
But it evolved into just like a great showcase of great matches. Sting Flair from '89, and I may have the year on there. It's like a 45-minute just tour de force on how to tell psychology in the ring, and I'm gonna get way too nerdy about pro wrestling. So tell me your match. What would your first match watch be?
Here's what I would do. And I've literally done this a little bit. In like searching out things to watch. The first thing that I would do would be to find the Royal Rumble where Diesel first showed up. I don't know if you
Very
remember
nice.
that. Okay, that one, or I mean, the number one that I would be like, I will watch this match forever would be the ladder match between Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels.
Wow.
That one to me was like, I will watch that ladder match forever. Like that one to me is
First ladder
great
match,
television.
first one to go widespread, first one to be on pay-per-view in America, and there we go. I just nerded out a little bit more. So let's move on to let you nerd out some. Let's let you nerd out some. This week, the World Cup roster was announced for the U.S. men's national team. I get real big into USMNT every about 3 to 4 years.
Yep.
So I was heavy into this. I was ready for the announcement. No Landon Donovan.
Yeah.
I got Jason. The floor is yours. I'm gonna go ahead and throw out some more words that make you angry. Missouri, go. I want to see what happens. I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, no. See, you would think that this would be the exact thing that would get me to the angry place, but it's really not. This is a decision that I think is really rough to handle for a lot of U.S. soccer fans, but is not necessarily the worst decision by Jurgen Klinsmann. Basically, what this does is this says there is like. Donovan can only play, like, he can only have gone on 2 spots in the roster. He could have gone as a forward or he could have gone as a midfielder, okay? We only have, like, 5 spots at forward. We got a lot more at midfield. The problem is that Donovan is not necessarily, like, he's not a starting forward. He's just not. As great as he was, he's not a starting forward anymore. He's a sub that would come on late as a forward. He might be a starting midfielder, but the problem is that our midfield is freaking loaded this year. Like, we have a great midfield on this World Cup roster. And then the third thing is to say that Klinsmann is he's clearly showing what he wants to prioritize, which is he wants to prioritize young talent getting a shot at this World Cup so that he can build on it for later World Cups. So he's not necessarily doing something that I'm, like, super pissed about, because he's showing us that basically, like, he's showing us really what you want out of a World Cup coach, is he wants to win the damn World Cup. And to do that, he wants to basically put as many young people on the plane as he can so that he can be ready for the next one. Because he knows, and this is where everybody's got to just be real and be honest and be logical. We're not going to get out of the group in this World Cup. We're just not. That is not going to happen. Or if we do, we're going to get out and then get run by whoever we play in the next round, because the group that the winner of the group that we would have to play is also loaded. So I think young people to watch, just so you can see what I'm saying about the Jurgen Klinsmann going for young people. Young people to watch, you should look for Aaron Johansson, who is a striker from the Netherlands. He plays in the Dutch league, but he's really, really good. He's the guy that daggered Panama in World Cup qualifying.
Okay.
Look for Julian Green, who's like the new crazy, like the big recruiting star from Bayern Munich, who I don't know how much time he'll get, but he came on versus Mexico and was pretty good, and then he actually injured himself, so he's better now. But look for those 2 guys. And then the old guy to watch is Chris Wondolowski, or Wando. He's a forward. If he gets in and scores during the World Cup, I don't care if we get run out of the group embarrassing-wise. I'm going to lose my damn mind if Wondolowski scores, because he's awesome. He's so much fun to watch. He's like 30, he's in his late 30s even, maybe. He's been playing in the MLS for years. He finally gets a shot at the World Cup, and he probably will score a goal at the World Cup, and I will just lose it when that happens.
Okay, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and I think I know the answer to this, but I want you to say it for the audience and for my own edification. Landon Donovan, like you said, there are players who are going to contribute this year who are older than Donovan, who aren't as accomplished. Do you think that Donovan could have played off the bench, 1? And 2, I know we're saying Donovan's kind of lost a step, but he did what it took. He stepped away from the game for a year. He came back, was played with the B team pretty much, and was named man of the tournament. I think he had 6 goals in 5 games.
Yeah, he killed it in the Gold Cup.
Golden Cup. He had a great tourney. So my question is, do you think that him coming off the bench would have been a distraction for the team, or would it have been not maximization, or is it just a youth movement that I'm just overreading?
That part's tough to me. I think part of this could be that, like, I don't think Klinsmann and Donovan got along from the very beginning. You know, like I think that's kind of fair to say. Is like they don't necessarily like each other a whole lot. So that makes this decision a little bit easier for him. The one thing that I will say to all the people that are like that went crazy over Landon Donovan being left off, here's the thing that I agree with them on. I'm okay with you cutting Landon Donovan. I'm not okay with you adding him to the 30-man roster for the World Cup and then being like, he's not one of the best 23 out of his 30. Because I'm sorry to tell me that like Yedlin or Timmy Chandler or especially some of these defensemen who have like caused total and utter meltdowns in the U.S. defense, and there are a lot of them that have done that are on this roster. If you're telling me that Landon Donovan is not better than those guys, then yeah, we have a problem. I get the decision from like I want to include as many young people as possible. I understand that decision, and I understand the fact too that you were like, Donovan's not really the leader of this team anymore. You want Michael Bradley to be the leader of this team, which, by the way, Michael Bradley is the new face of U.S. soccer. It's not Landon Donovan anymore.
Fair enough. I'm fine with that.
I'm not saying that like you should. I'm not saying like you should be fine with that. I'm saying like that is what people are going to discover at this World Cup. Is that change has happened and that people are going to see that now. But yeah, the only thing that I would agree with you with is I think if it's me, I take Landon Donovan. I take him just because I think he's so solid, he can calm people down. He lends a lot of experience that you need, because the problem with having a really young team, you can ask Kentucky about this, when you get into the really, really big spotlight, sometimes you fall off your ass, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that to me would be the advantage of taking Donovan. I don't necessarily fault Klinsmann. At this point, for all the good things he's done, I trust Klinsmann. I'm just like, okay, whatever you want to do, I trust you, because the U.S. had the longest winning streak in its history, and it's back in the top 20 and heading into a World Cup.
That's right.
In the FIFA rankings, and that hadn't been the case for a long time. And if the U.S. had gotten any other group in the World Cup draw, like if they were in the group of life right now with France, the U.S. would be basically assured of going into the round of 16, and probably they could have won a game.
Well, like you said, a lot of it's the draws, a lot of it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because Donovan, he said before that if he didn't make the roster, he would be the biggest cheerleader, but he's already leaking quotes, already making direct quotes, challenging Klinsmann's decision here.
Yeah.
And not only, I think from a soccer perspective, you're probably right, but from a PR perspective, this is the most popular player in U.S. history. And
Absolutely.
It's going to be really interesting to see how Klinsmann measures that going forward.
Yeah.
Let's move over to a little playoff basketball, which ate up my day for part of the day yesterday on Saturday, and I don't anticipate taking a lot of my day today. The poor Thunder and the poor Pacers. The poor Thunder have been eviscerated due to injury to Serge Ibaka. The Pacers are getting hurt because LeBron James on the other side. I know you haven't been on the pods where we've been discussing basketball at length. What's your take on the playoffs so far as a whole?
I'll be real with you. I literally Googled NBA playoffs before we did this, because I have not watched since the first round.
That's fair.
And I think from what I have read about and read up on and heard about, it really is the only thing that I'm crazy amazed by is how the San Antonio Spurs keep doing this. I don't understand. I feel like this would be like a baseball team that had if all the 90, the Braves team from the 90s were still playing baseball and were killing everybody. If that happened, this is I feel like that's comparable to what the Spurs are doing. It's like a ton of old guys, the same system they've been running forever. And this is becoming, and if the Heat weren't about to three-peat, if the Spurs had won Game 6 of last year's series and won the championship that year, we'd be talking about one of the biggest dynasties of the NBA since the Bulls with the Spurs.
I think this goes beyond as far as the Spurs go. This goes beyond the Bulls, because we're talking about a guy in Tim Duncan who's won more playoff games than a lot of franchises have even been to. Time they haven't won 50 games since Tim Duncan's been there in 1998? Once, and that was when the 49-game season happened because of the lockout. They win 50 every year he's there. They always make the playoffs. I would say it's boring, except it's so much fun to watch. I'm gonna watch. I tell myself I'm not gonna watch tonight. I'm gonna watch the Spurs continue to beat down the Thunder. But it's more like the beginning of I forget the movie now with Denzel Washington with the voiceover. You're about to witness a murder. I believe it's Murder 1600. I may have just completely blown that, but whatever. that voiceover comes to mind every time I watch Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili and Tim Duncan and Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green and Thiago Splitter and all those guys that just seem to roll out there who pick up the best parts of the guys around them and evolve into some super Voltron-like formation of the Spurs to eviscerate whoever's in front of them until they're met with Is there a Mega Voltron? Because that's what LeBron James is. He's a one-man Voltron. He's like a Jaeger from Pacific Rim trying to fight a Voltron. And I can't wait to watch it for 7 games again this season.
Man, we are nerding out hardcore on this podcast.
Good and nerdy on this podcast. I take college football to pro wrestling to let Jason rant about soccer, and now I'm talking Voltron and Pacific Rim. You find me another podcast that brings that to the table every Saturday/Sunday/ when I can get people on.
Get on our level.
We're gonna close out with 2 stories that I think one's hilarious and the other's hilarious for a whole different reason. We've been talking on the pod about a gift that keeps on giving, that which is Mr. Donald Sterling, racist curmudgeon, known lover of gold diggers, and big purveyor of foot and mouth syndrome every time he's in front of a camera. So I don't know if you heard, I don't know if the viewers heard that. Not only has looked like Donald Sterling's abandoning his legal fight, he's signing over the rights of the team to his wife so she can orchestrate a sale. On the one hand, I'm really happy to have him out of the league. I think if you get the sale completed before free agency starts July 1st, that'd be for the best. I know that the NBA had that ultimate silver bullet saying, if you don't sell your team before our deadline, we'll just give everyone the right to leave your team, drop the valuation, you lose all this money. I think Sterling at some point looked at legal fees, looked at how much he was standing to lose of the devaluation, and got out, which is the first smart thing he's done since I cannot tell you when.
Yeah.
So I'm a little sad to see him go from a humor perspective. I'm elated to see him go from a good elite perspective. Do you think, well, is Donald Sterling out of our lives now? I mean, am I going to have him pop up every 6 months with new tapes, or him and a Hitler mustache? I don't know. What's next with Donald Sterling?
I think, and this will take it to a dark place for where we were, but just a second ago. I think he probably is not in good health. It seems, no. And I imagine like he'll be gone until he's gone, meaning like he'll fade out of the news cycle until his death. And when he dies, it's going to be one of those weird things of, you never want to celebrate death ever in anybody. Well, I mean, like, only because
why I can't celebrate.
I mean, they're like absolutely celebrate. You know what I mean? But like, the only thing that I ever don't celebrate is like death. Like, death sucks a lot. This is me going all theological too, and in the background of me being a theology PhD is like, death is the last great enemy to be defeated from a Christian standpoint. Which, God, I do not want to go that theological right now, but. Yeah. So that is like that's where I'm coming from. I'm only like I never want to celebrate when somebody dies, even when they're like a person that I'm like should not be allowed to do the things he does while he's living. You know what I mean? And all the more power to people who have been hurt by this guy who are like, I'm really glad that he's gone, and now like hopefully there is some comeuppance coming for people like that. But like I'm always reticent to celebrate stuff when something that bad happens to somebody, no matter who they were.
All right. Unlike Jason, I'm not a good person. And I'm very ready and willing to say that in the grander scheme of things, there's one common denominator for all of us. We're all going to die. And,
yeah.
and if you're going to tell me that because he fell to that same common denominator that I can't party off it, I'm going to ignore you.
It's an understandable sentiment.
It's coming from all of us. I got to enjoy it. So Donald Sterling's gone. Shelley Sterling, who, for the record, isn't a whole lot better, Miss Inspector.
No. And I'm kind of worried that she's going to Game of Thrones and try to keep the team. Like as soon as that paper's signed, I'm worried she's going to be like, "Well, I'm not a racist and I'm great. You should just let me have this team."
That's the best part is the fact that the NBA bylaws, which have slowly trickled out, state that if the managing partner of a team is stripped of the ownership, all parties are stripped. So if he doesn't win this hearing on June 3rd, she can take her fight and go away while she sells the team.
Yeah.
Last but not least, my favorite story of the week is I get to make fun of Roger Goodell. Jim Irsay. You may remember him as the owner of the Colts, the son of the man who, excuse me, I'm not going to get in the family, but let's just say this way. He was found driving in excessive posted speed limit with drugs in his system, with $30,000 in the car, and with enough prescription pills to tide over most motorcycle clubs. So you would think that possession and that DUIs and all these large felonious words would be coming out about this time. He's being charged with 2 misdemeanors and being sent on his way. to be followed up upon, needless to say, with no punishments by Mr. Goodell. Glaring hypocrisy aside, Andrew or Jason, what does this story tell us about not only Jim Irsay but about Roger Goodell and ownership as a whole?
I think the whole he's gotten the reputation of executioner and really going hard on the character clause. And I think obviously, I mean, what it tells you is the glaring hypocrisy is right. We're correct to say that, because I mean, there's no way. Part of the problem is that you begin to see how insulated and scheming the owners are to protect themselves, because it is so clear how little Roger Goodell can do to this guy, even if he wanted to. Because what do you do to really punish a guy like this? Do you suspend him from his own team? How does that work? You can't ban. I mean, I guess you could ban Jim Irsay for life if you wanted to.
My only point is that not only are we not going to see punishment from the league, but we have the complicity of whatever municipal police department is involved to not only ignore the money and the drug system and charge him with 2 misdemeanors that he can pay off with literally his couch cushion change.
Yeah.
I think that this just for me it's more of the same. You and I and everyone on the side pretty much, we tell jokes about the levels that the owners are going to protect themselves. This is just the latest example. I think it's going to be interesting to see, because in Denver last year when I believe an assistant GM got caught drunk driving. That's a 3-game suspension, and he served, and the league said we'll leave it up to team's discretion, which means nothing happened.
Yeah.
So, I think it's a more hypocritical thing, but also that this country is drunk on football, and so it's hard to cut through the draft and free agency and training camps. And oh my God, Johnny Manziel threw a football. Did you know that?
And got sued, by the way, in one of the best lawsuits of all time.
I didn't want to do this. For the record, I didn't want to talk about this. And in the words of 2 minutes or less, the most ridiculous lawsuit you've ever read was filed as a joke, but it was sadly accepted. If you read any of the lawsuit, it's clearly a hoax. I think Jimmy Kimmel's behind it, just because he's behind most things at this point. I actually
heard that it's from a guy who's mentally disturbed. So he's writing things.
So Jimmy Kimmel.
Well,
that was the way too easy of a joke. I'd feel bad about taking that joke if I had a conscience. Yeah, we're not gonna. We do run a blog, but I'm not gonna delve in. We're not that kind of blog where we start quoting this lawsuit because it was hilarious. Google Johnny Manziel lawsuit, Johnny Football lawsuit. Google, I believe it was hot dogs and Johnny Manziel.
Yeah,
it'll be fine.
There's something about that.
Get there. I wish I didn't know it, but I do, and now you do too.
Also, here's one thing too that I just want to drop in with this Roger Goodell thing is that we're judging. Well, it's not. Here we go. It'll be very interesting to watch how he does this situation, and I love that these two things are lining up in the news cycle. How he handles Jim Irsay versus how he handles Ray Rice, who just got up on a press conference stage the other day with his wife, who he knocked out in an elevator. And said that, this quote, he used this analogy of sometimes you get knocked down, but it's about how you get up. And the only people that are failures are the people who stay down. He said basically that with the woman he knocks out sitting next to him. It's and then how Roger Goodell handles these two people will be the key here.
Okay, one, I want to say that I'm glad someone is finally quoting Chumbawamba in press conferences. Two,
so wrong.
Two, I guarantee you this is why Chad Floyd was ducking the podcast, because even though I didn't include that topic on here, he's a Ravens fan, and he's obligated by fandom to defend the guys, so I would have loved to see him squirm on the podcast. Don't worry, Chad, next time, I know you don't listen to these, so next time I'm coming back with the same topic. That's all we've got for you on the Hangover this week. We'll be back hopefully at 12 p.m. next Saturday. We'll have a post up where you can watch live. And I think that's it. Jason, where can they find you on Twitter?
Find me on the Twitters at JasonIsASmith, and then you can catch my writings at Dude You Crazy, obviously, and over at bourbonbraintrust.com.
Yep, I am DPalm66 on Twitter. Find me at dudeyoucrazy.net. Find me on the Dude G podcast. And if anyone wants me to write for them, so I can have a second site like Jason, that'd be stellar. Just tell me what you need, man. Clearly, I've got a wide breadth of nerd knowledge that's waiting to be spilled on your digital pages.
Dude, if you want a pro wrestling post on Bourbon Brain Trust, We will make that happen.
You heard him here first, folks.
Look out for that. We're posting.
I'm a junior pro wrestling guy, and I probably shouldn't brag about that. Thanks again for coming to the Hangover. We'll talk to you guys later in the week.